3 people check into a hotel room and pay $30, 10 apiece. The clerk realizes they should have only paid $25, so he refunds them all $1 and keeps 2 for himself. They all pay 9, that's 27, he keeps 2. Where's the other one to make 30? Hello everyone, and welcome to the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmg, your one-stop shop for everything RPG Maker. This is Cody, aka Marpix, and with me today are Carbonic.
I'm playing good game. You guys should play Ginormo Sword. Play it.
Blue Sky Robin.
This reminds me of a puzzle.
And Fox.
I'm a badass.
What a great intro. Is the podcast over now?
Yeah, goodbye everybody.
GG, well played. Wow, he actually did leave. Okay. Wait, is he actually gone for real?
It looks like it, yeah.
Motherfucker!
He went to go play his Ginormo Sword. He wants to play with it.
Christ! Okay.
He's back!
He's
He
back.
summoned me.
Okay.
I am breathless.
So some news I forgot to cover last time, which I think I really should have. Yanfly has a new plugin called Doodads, which instead of having to parallax map, you're allowed to, through his plugin, place objects on a per pixel basis on any map. So you don't even need to be good at parallax mapping to add a lot of detail and creativity to your maps anymore.
Hooray. But
Jesus Christ, Fox.
mapping is still pretty hard.
That is true. That is true. And I did see this Doodad plugin, what was it, like 2 weeks ago? Yeah, it's been about that long.
It came out before the last podcast, and I forgot to cover it like an idiot.
Ah.
The only downside to it is because Yanfly is an outside scripter, he can't modify the editing engine itself. You have to go through with like the keypad and like mash everything in manually. So it feels kind of like the old school PS1 version in a way, because you don't get the mouse anymore. You have to go, you have to mash the right key until you get what you want.
Ew. That's not inherently bad, but
It's a thing that works. We hope it could be better, but like for now it works.
kind of like this app.
So speaking of that, yeah, there's a new RPG Maker in town, and it's for mobile.
It's kind of shit.
Is that the whole thing about it?
No.
The new RPG Maker mobile. It's shit.
It's... Right. Well, again, it's an app that came out about almost a week ago by this point, and it's published by Degica. Most people will say it's like quote-unquote RPG Maker on the go for mobile, and technically, yeah, but it's also relatively different in the ways, mostly because of its interface, which I don't really think could have been, like, the way it was done really could have been improved and more akin to RPG Maker itself, if that's what they were going for. Because at the point, it's relatively cluttered, and even on my iPad, which has a much, much bigger screen than my phone, and I think this is mostly designed for phones, but I use it on my iPad as well, even bringing up the sprite on that is relatively in the way of the map itself if you're either zoomed in or like zoomed out even on the 1:2 ratio, because it's literally this giant rectangle that comes up in the middle of your screen and you can choose what sprites you want to use. But then you have to like move it out of your way, and you have to bring it up, bring it back down, bring it up, bring it back down every time you want to put something on the grid, because you can't, unlike RPG Maker on the PC, where you can literally drag your mouse across how many tiles you want to place on the map at one time, if you have that. You have to literally tap each individual sprite piece and put it on the map one by one, which is kind of annoying. As far as its functionality goes, you can quote-unquote import things, but I'm not entirely sure how to do that just yet. It's pretty vague on how it tells you how to do that. I've tried to import like XP 2003, pretty much all the RPG Maker things I could think of, as well as other third-party sprites, just random ones, and nothing works right. In some way, shape, or form, everything is cut off, or it's too big, or too small. So at least as far as I can tell, unless you're an artist who knows how to make things in that kind of design and size, you're screwed in terms of importing things.
All right.
Mm.
So it's kind of its own thing. You have to make assets for it. It'd be very hard to import things that were also published by Degica.
Yes.
Okay.
Importing, I know people like to use a lot of music and such because they're, commissioning people for music is very expensive and making your own is relatively difficult. But the problem with this one right now is that importing background music and sound effects is, well, it doesn't work near as I've been able to try.
All right. The interface is clunky and very hard to do on a phone, but how's like playing an RPG on it?
Playing the RPG on it is, well, if you've played any mobile game, any mobile RPG, like my favorite personally, it's also a little clunky in how it works, but I like it a lot, is Zenonia. It's kind of like an old school hack and slash-ish RPG, Legend of Zelda style. It's nice. I like it. But if you've played Zenonia or anything that has basically virtual buttons, that's how it operates. There's a virtual joystick D-pad thing on the bottom left, and then you have your menu button and interact button on the left.
They're both on the left.
Oh, no, the right, sorry. The D-pad on the left, the buttons on the right.
All right. Cool.
So it's bad, is it?
It's not inherently bad, but it's definitely, it could be better. Considering it's also in version 2.0 right now, I don't know, it doesn't really feel like a 2.0 to me. But anybody who wants to pick this thing up and is expecting to make something akin to really, and even RPG Maker 2003 quality, like IB, and who wants to be able to go into scripting and custom assets out the wazoo, would have a pretty difficult time finding this appealing. As I kind of said multiple times to other people, is that this is definitely an app where if you're taking a break from RPG Maker on the PC and you are pretty much on hiatus, but you don't want to get rusty, quote unquote, this would be a good thing to just kind of pick up and mess around with every once in a while. Keep your gears lubricated, as it were. This app is free, but it's limited in that. But thankfully, it's only $8 to quote unquote unlock it, where you can just mess around as much as you want.
So if you have delicate tiny fingers and you've spent years playing the piano, you have the required dexterity to make a good-looking RPG on this thing.
That, or if you have an iPad.
I just got a smartphone 2 years ago, and I have so much trouble trying to close out of certain things, because there's a lot of websites that really don't give a fuck if you're on a phone, and they'll make a close window button 9 pixels, just big enough to fit an X inside of it. God, it's so annoying.
That does sound really annoying.
Guys, I have a question for all of you. What would you guys want to see in a new RPG Maker? Base not made by Yanfly or anyone, just included.
What
I
want.
would have to think about that.
Well, think about it and get back to me in a bit if you ever think of something.
A graphics overhaul that makes it not look like RTP? Wait, what would that even look like if it wasn't RTP?
Well, then
It needs to be a different RTP.
Unique.
RTP that doesn't look like RTP.
What if they do it and they just make an RTP where people are basically forced to make their own graphics because the RTP looks like Space Funeral?
There's a lot of programming programs that do that. I remember one of my friends, they were doing a programming class, and the compiler they had, you basically had to learn how the compiler worked before anything else would work. There was a checkbox, deep in this thing that said put a header on everything, and you had to uncheck that for anything to work, because the heading they put in was garbage on purpose.
I think RPG Maker should make the RTP like in Space Funeral, so people have to learn how to do pixel art.
Yeah, except for people like me who have tried and they can't.
You can. You're just lazy.
I've tried, trust me. I've definitely tried before many times.
I would appreciate a simpler way to do the character generator thing, I guess.
Maybe not simpler, but have more variety to it, because that was my issue with it, was that there was just so few options to work with.
Yeah, I want a 3D RPG Maker.
That'd be nice. But they have one called RPG Maker 3 on the PS2.
And also 2. but they're bad.
That's true.
They're both very bad.
The thing about, if I remember correctly, RPG Maker 3 suffered from the problem of a lot of stuff looking the same, because 3D modeling, believe it or not, is a lot harder than just throwing a piece of pixel art on the screen. Now, I'm not saying that pixel art in and of itself is like an inferior art form or what have you, but I'm saying that it's much easier for a random person to make pixel art and import it than it would be to import or make 3D models.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't need a specialized program, you just need to draw it and paint, and there you go.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, RPG Maker 2 and 3 had their own character generators.
No, they didn't. Well,
Yeah,
it's
they
not.
did.
Oh, 3 didn't.
Oh, okay, well, 2 did.
Yeah, 3 didn't have any kind of importability or a generator of any kind.
Oh, you can import stuff. Overall, I think it's a bit weird how they decided to make console versions of RPG Maker.
I think it was a nice idea. I just hate how limited it was and how kind of irritating. Unless you had a USB keyboard, it was really irritating to do anything.
Yeah. Well,
This guy needs a keyboard.
I do. I actually have my USB keyboard in my closet. I used it.
Have you
Okay,
watched
so-
my critically acclaimed web series, Defeat the Darkness?
yeah, critically acclaimed.
I'd watch it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, I did say 2 weeks ago, like, the RPG Maker was like an easy bake oven. That was stupid of me to say. It gives you a structure, and the nature of a structure limits you because it allows you to quickly and efficiently do one thing and not other things. But you look at Day of Dagon, that episode I just put out, and you tell me if people could even try to do that in a current RPG Maker. Like, it's
Are you talking about the portal thing?
not just the portal thing, but all the character movement and the camera changes, all of that. There was 2 or 3 editing tricks, but the rest of that was done natively in the engine. And one of those tricks was the voice acting.
Nice. But I kind of feel like your statement might actually hold some credit, like being a quote-unquote easy bake oven, because in a way it can be, but you
wouldn't-
can also
I
have
wouldn't
the
say
ability to
that.
basically attach a turbojet engine to it and make it go fly.
I wouldn't call it an easy bake oven. I'd call it more of a light bright. Maybe a Mr. Potato Head.
Which you can also attach jet rockets to and watch them fly.
Yeah.
You know, I like the light bright analogy. Like, I'm having trouble coming up with an analogy, but light bright in and of itself is an art form.
What's a light bright?
I don't know. I mean, now that I think of it, the map editor is kind of like a light bright.
Okay, Robin. Yeah, so do you honestly not know what a light bright is?
Dude, he's from, like,
It
Malaysia.
sounds familiar, but like I don't know.
Yeah, so
Came out of a
basically
hole in the
imagine,
ground yesterday.
Imagine pixel art, but with pegs and very unstable.
Yeah, so here's the light bright of
Are
Mr.
like
Potato
Ben-
Head.
Yeah. I'm sending a
At,
picture
at
too.
least in my experience, Lightbright was very, very ridiculous. Like, none of the pegs would want to stay in the hole at all.
Well,
ever.
did you put a thing of construction paper over it first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I had to use glue to make them
Oh,
stay,
these-
and then I could just never get them out
I've
again.
never seen these things before, so yeah.
You could very easily make a light bright. It's just a box with a light in it.
And a grid.
As-
Well, it looks neat, but like I've never seen one myself before. So
It's a little overrated.
Yeah, but as far as, like, more stuff for RPG Maker, I think they need to implement some more battle systems. And I'm not just talking about, like, ATB. I'm talking about, like, a FF10's charge turn battle kind of thing. I want to see the agility stat be more useful, because that's been one of my biggest pet peeves since I was, like, 5, is, like, agility literally only determines who goes first. That's it.
I'd like to see the Legend of
Is
Zelda
it-
style kind of combat, like real world, like overworld, real time hack and slash ish thing.
We still don't have, like, a strategy RPG Maker. I guess Red Mage has an old one from the 90s, so you could remake Shining Force or Fire Emblem if you really want to.
I would
Having
yeah, I
a
would
Fire
really
Emblem style
appreciate
RPG Maker
some
battle
tactics.
system would be pretty damn cool, actually.
But yeah, the FF10 charge turn battle thing as a default of the engine, that would be neat. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, just something to give it a little more variety, because I think it's not just being an RPG Maker game that turns people off. It's because it's an RPG Maker game, it's going to have movement on a grid. It's going to have the same kinds of random battles. And certain people can circumvent that by having really good art and making it look nice, but no matter how you dress it up, it's still the same gameplay underneath.
Well, you're not wrong.
Well,
by the way, does anyone out there hate the art style of the RTPs?
No. Not inherently, not at a default, no. But when everybody's using it, yeah.
Most people who don't work on RPG Maker are fine with the default assets.
Well, I don't know. It's just the art style. I mean, on a base level, I feel it's some of the most generic stylings I've ever seen. Like, I don't think I've even ever seen a game that looks like the RTP. As in, it's just trying so hard to be like every other game that it's almost like no games. Because most games have some form of personality to their spritings.
I think, because it's RPG Maker, they have to remove as much personality as possible so that people can implant their own. But also, this is why I actually like XP's style of sprites, because they're like a head and a half tall or 2 tiles tall. The normal chibis that they have, like the 48 by 48, their proportions are off because they're square and they're too detailed for their own good. I think MV is probably the only RPG out there that uses 48 by 48 square chibi sprites.
Yep.
Near as I know, yeah.
I've never used MV, so they only updated from 32 to 48.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah,
that's
which
lame.
Is weird because that's not like how like increasing pixels are supposed to work.
I mean, if you're gonna go 16-bit, just go 16-bit.
Yeah, if you look at an RPG like Suikoden, it was in the PS1 era, and they actually used tall sprites, and I think that because you're allowed more colors and it's allowed to look more realistic, then the characters should look more realistic too. Most of my favorite RPGs are on Game Boy, and the characters are square, but I understand why they're square. It's because of the technology and the size of the screen.
Yeah, that's pretty much the reason for a lot of older games being the way they are. It's because of just hardware limitations. It's understandable, and it works. It gives it a really nice aesthetic.
Even if you look back in the day, like Phantasy Star had tall sprites and they looked good, and then you have things like, I think Lufia had square sprites still, but they were so detailed that they looked kind of silly. Same with like Tales of Phantasia, I think did the same thing. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
I can't wait for them to make like RPG Maker for the like virtual headset thing.
For VR, that'd be actually...
Yeah.
I feel like they would have to do some kind of like 3D RPG Maker for that to work, really. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas.
It's on mobile, so eventually they'll reach VR.
Yeah.
RPG Maker for VR.
Haha!
God. I could see it now. What I would really want from that is like a control wheel. Not like a mouse or anything, a fucking wheel. So like you could click it into place. You have all the assets like on your wrist and you just spin the wheel until you get the one you want, then you can place it down.
That could work.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of dials, and especially since, with a dial it wouldn't take up all your visual space. You wouldn't be looking at a giant menu, you'd be going, grass 1, grass 2, grass 3, nah, spin really quick, oh, there's the sand, there we go. Put that down.
Yeah, it just has to be done right. But otherwise, yeah. It could work.
What's going on in the news?
I think that was it.
Oh, here's a little bit of stuff. This is just an indie game, but for anyone who knew about the game Wuppo, that's been in development, it has just been released on Steam. It is available for $14.99, and I'm not sure if it's good or not, but I know a lot of people would be interested in hearing that because it was a game that started development, I think, in 2010. And it's just a cute little game made by a YouTuber called Green Cream, who was known at the time for making MapleStory videos, but then he decided just like make a game, and it just got released finally. So, yeah.
Yay!
I don't know if it's good because I haven't played it.
Oh, okay.
And
It's just an interesting. No, but it's independent, and we're partially an indie podcast.
Partially, he says.
Yeah, indie won't step up to make a podcast. Indie, if you're listening, make a podcast.
No,
Indie
man, that's
games
not gonna
general.
happen. Indie's too busy raiding tombs.
Ignore him, Indie. It's me, Don Carbonic. I'm the Don. I order you to make a podcast. I control Indie, and I control everything they say, because that's the kind of person I am. Yeah, sure.
We'll put a link for Wuppo in the description below. Speaking of game makers, who here picked up Game Maker while it was on the Humble Bundle for dirt cheap?
I am poor and unknowledgeable of coding skills, so I did not.
I'm very angry about this, actually, because I bought it the week before at full price.
Oh, shit.
I decided to invest to move up, to just try it out, and I bought it at full price.
What luck.
And then it was like, Humble Bundle, pay what you want!
Sorry, I think I got Game Maker like months ago, but like it was also from Humble Bundle, so I don't know if it was cheaper back then or if it's cheaper now.
I bought it, so now I have I paid the full $15, so I have the full kit and caboodle, and then I also have VX Ace and the whole kit and caboodle because I bought that Humble Bundle as well. But because I haven't finished Defeat the Darkness, I still am sitting on the PS1 version and making stuff in that.
Yeah, you paid the full price, the full $15. You paid the full price, the full price. Yeah, you paid the full $799 price tag.
You know what's funny is I got RPG Maker for PS1 at GameStop for $30 10 years ago. I think 13 years ago now. So technically I paid as much for the PS1 RPG Maker as I did for both VX Ace and Game Maker combined.
Oh my. Yeah, but that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Wasn't there a 3D RPG Maker that just came out?
Smile RPG, yeah.
Oh yeah, that one.
And it's terrible.
Oh.
Really?
It looked very promising, but apparently it's very, very buggy, very unstable, and it's not capable of all as much as it wants to be.
$799 for the trial version.
Well,
full price, $15.
I tried Smile Out a month or so ago. It was posted in rpgmg, and I downloaded it and checked it out. I like the art style. I like how it kind of has a Minecraft style kind of build for how you build your stuff, but it doesn't render anything outside of the screen. So when you're moving... Okay, so I have a pretty beefy rig, alright? I've got an AMD quad-core, I've got an ATI 5000 series graphics card.
Fancy schmancy.
Yeah, I mean...
AMD, there's your problem, huh?
So running something akin to RPG Maker should not stutter. And it does. And I can tell because, when you hold the button to run, you can see it stuttering and trying to render all the frames that are just outside your view. And that's a rookie mistake, because even in the Game Boy days with Final Fantasy Legend, it still rendered one tile outside of your view. And they couldn't even figure to do that much. If I were to make anything in Smile, the first thing I'd do would be to disable the run function to keep the frame rate stable and keep the player experience as high quality as possible.
Which most people like to run, so I don't think that would do too much.
Well,
yeah, walking so slow.
Oh god, that reminds me of the RPG Maker 3. Even with the running, it was stupidly slow.
Which RPG Maker?
Number 3 on the PS2.
Oh,
running, even when you run, it's so slow.
So wait, what was the first RPG Maker? It was 95, right?
Probably.
No.
Have any of you ever used that one?
Maybe it was.
Yeah, I think it was RPG Maker 95.
No, yeah, I think that one... Didn't they start on the PS1 too? Or was that
No.
way
They
old
started
computers,
on the
Apple
PC.
II days?
It was one of those early days where it was still during the Wild West of PCs, where things had a whole bunch of different kinds of operating systems and different kinds of DOSes.
Oh, the good old days of Windows pre-2000.
Oh no, it was before Windows was like the main thing. It was before like Mac and Windows became actual like things that everyone used.
So
So it
DOS
was like, yeah, different DOS things.
I kind of miss DOS.
Why?
I don't know.
Are you just trying to appear older than you are?
No, I
Just
actually
trying
did.
to seem cooler. Like, yeah, yeah, 90s.
No, but my
90s
dad
kids
actually
will
had
remember.
my dad had a DOS machine, and it was pretty nice. I don't know, something about it just dicking around and trying to figure things out was really nice.
Oh, those old simple times when things made sense and you couldn't break the computer by doing something wrong.
You could easily break the computer by doing something wrong. Fail-safes weren't enough at the time.
And hammers were still very destructive.
Well, I remember those days because apparently I'm ancient around here. You could turn off the computer anytime. You didn't have to shut it down. You just hit the switch in the back and you were done. But nowadays they have to do their whole shutdown procedure and make sure everything's kosher, brah.
I think you got your accents mixed up for some reason.
I'm a Jewish surfer for some reason. So we'll move on to today's subject today, and that's going to be puzzles.
Puzzles.
Hooray! Everyone's favorite topic.
Well, based on
I
my
lost my
extensive gameplay experience, most people don't play games for the puzzles unless they're explicitly going out of their way to play a puzzle game. You should have them be simple rather than hard, because you want them to be solvable by anybody. You don't want them to slam the brakes on the gameplay people are there for. They're there to provide a break, but not to take the player out of their zone. You know, I think it may have been you, Robin, that said God of War had puzzles, but they were very light puzzles used to break up the action.
Yeah, I did mention that like a long time ago.
I know in the first God of War they had puzzles, and they were kind of infuriating because you were always being hit by something when you were trying to do it. I'm glad they learned from that mistake.
Solve this puzzle, asshole.
I'm just glad they learned from that mistake to an extent in the other God of War series games, because that was annoying as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I mean, I don't know. What do you mean? What do you define as a hard puzzle, though? Because like some people think
A puzzle
hard
room
puzzles
with enemies in it.
Yeah.
Besides that, like something that doesn't involve combat. How about that?
All right.
A
So,
non-combat puzzle.
so I posted this in rpgmg a while ago, and I'll bring it up again. Let's say like a puzzle like the Towers of Hanoi. Have you heard of that one?
Sounds familiar.
But you don't know how to play.
Not sure what it is though.
Then it's too hard. That's my description, because people of all ages are going to play your game, whether they're 5, whether they're 50, whether they're 95. They're going to play your game, and so if a kid can't grasp it, right away, and you don't explain it, then they're not going to enjoy your game. Which is why
Can a kid grasp Dark Souls? I don't think so.
Hey, it's rated M, asshole.
But everyone's going to play your game.
Yeah, but that's why I think most puzzles usually go around the same kind of tropes, like pulling switches or pushing buttons or matching colors or that kind of thing, because they're very on their face. They're simple enough for anyone to grasp right away.
What about number puzzles?
Can you give an example?
Math is horrible.
Shut up. But I mean, like, trying to think. I do. There's like 2 variants I'm thinking of. Like one of them is just basically math problems and riddles based around numbers, and then you have to like input a code in the end based on what you think you know the answer to be. And then I have the other one where it's like the game 2048, where you have to actually slide tiles around and do numbers to add up to a bigger number without filling up your screen and making yourself die, quote unquote.
I don't think puzzles do that one.
The first one you talked about, the combination lock, I think that's cool because you can incorporate the world and writing into it, because it could be like 3 maidens found 3 men. There you go. The first number is 6.
Yay.
But the second one, like 2048, that one is that's just good design, because once you play 2048 for about 2 or 3 minutes, you understand what it's about and what you're supposed to do without any instruction. And I think I would turn down the number a little bit lower, because it took me weeks to actually beat 2048. But that's
I played the extreme version.
But yeah, that style of puzzle would be really good. But once you get into like just straight up math problems, I think people aren't going to enjoy that unless they're a hardcore math nerd, and that's when that's when you do the forbidden thing and you Google the answer. Yeah, because in an era where anyone can Google anything, like, you have to make the puzzles fair and solvable, because that's why I didn't like Minecraft when it first came out, is because the crafting was just so goddamn obtuse and they don't tell you, and it needs its own wiki. So you had to have this supplement to actually complete the game you're trying to play.
Yeah, that does suck when you have to refer to outside materials to do something in the game.
What if I could be wrong in thinking it's true, but I did read somewhere where really older games like SNES and the N64 sometimes even, they made their games hard intentionally so that people would go out and get those external, magazines and such, at least back in the day before the World Wide Web was around and popular, basically buy those magazines for marketing purposes and just to make more money.
Oh, yeah.
Like, basically hard by design.
Yeah, the late 90s, early 2000s were notorious for that. Like, you had the collect-a-thon games like Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie. You needed the guides to find all the collectibles. And then you had, like, FF7, FF8, FF9. And FF9 was probably the worst, because not only did you have to buy the guide to find everything, but when you bought the guide, you didn't even get the whole guide. You had to, like, log into the Prima Guide website and enter in a special code to actually view the damn material.
Oh yeah, the Prima Guide. I remember that guide. Wow. That long ago, huh? Jeez.
Those were the dark days.
Oh, look at this new dungeon. You have to equip your weakest weapons.
Yeah, like, or GoldenEye 64, alright? This is my favorite one, because, in the last level of GoldenEye 64, because I'm actually one of the wackos who played the damn campaign, in the final level, the only way to bypass the security system on the Golden Gun is to walk around the floor. It's a tiled floor, nice big tiles. You have to walk around in the shape of a G, for GoldenEye, in order to get to the other side and get the gun. But even with the guide, I kept fucking it up.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to walk in that kind of formation with a freaking analog stick that's only, like, a singular joystick that also doesn't really work too well in most cases.
Yeah, and
comes to moving around.
And nowhere in the game does it tell you about this specific walking sequence, so it's almost as if they expected you to buy the guide to figure it out.
I wonder if somebody, like, in modern day, like, probably even RPG Maker people have, like, intentionally done that and just as a joke and made, like, a wiki somewhere, intentionally fucking it up and making it difficult for that reason.
I don't think anyone in the RPG Maker community thought they could sell their game, much less sell a strategy.
No. I don't mean sell it. Like, make the game intentional, so you had to go to the said wiki and actually look up the things.
Oh, isn't that every exploration game though?
Not inherently. I know. Well, at least not for. I'm not going to RPG Maker on this one, but PS3 and PS4 on Journey. Journey was. I didn't have to use any kind of guide. It was an exploration game.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like Yume Nikki, and like you go to different places, and there could be a puzzle in one of those places, and you don't have to solve it, but it's just there, and if you happen to know, great. Like, I think the exploration genre would be able to use puzzles the best, because they can be as hard as you want, because none of them matter to completion of the game. Like, the ones that matter to complete the game if there is an ending could be rather simple, or it could be different gameplay entirely. But then you can have the puzzles as a break or as a challenge or a way to unlock special story content.
For special artwork.
Oh yeah.
Yes, work hard for that special artwork of the princess. Ooh.
That's kind of one thing I do have a gripe with some puzzle games. Actually, is the difficulty curve versus the reward you get for completing said puzzle. Not very good sometimes.
That reminds me of, I don't know why, but this reminds me of like Sierra games. You know those games?
Oh, the old
The one
school.
where you mess up once early on and you get fucked later.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to own King's Quest 2 and King's Quest 5.
Yeah, those are like not fair puzzles at all.
Because you don't even know when you lost. You don't even know when you lost the game, because there's one part where there's a cat, like, fighting a mouse. And this happens exactly once, and if you don't break them up, if you don't scare the cat away, then the mouse doesn't save you when you're tied up in a basement later on. But if you save after, the cat eats the mouse, you're screwed. Like, you don't even know you've lost. You don't even know, because once you get captured, you don't know how the hell you're supposed to be rescued.
Yep.
Like those choose your own adventure games.
Necessary to finish the game too.
At least with, a choose your own adventure book, you can cheat. You see which page you're supposed to go on. Okay, so I go to page 60. I'm gonna try page 63, and if this doesn't work, then I know I just go to page 81.
The joy of those books.
Yeah, you're staring at the source code right there. You will find the happy ending. Even if you have to read it in order, you will find it.
I think one of my favorite things with those was to read them backwards. It was so weird.
Like you try to figure out what page leads to that page or something?
Yes. You literally have you get to the ending and then you try and backtrack your way through the book to the very beginning without dying, quote unquote.
Wow.
How do you die when going backwards in time?
Ask Marty McFly, damn it.
I like it. I also like when the puzzles are integrated into the story well. Sometimes they don't need explaining, like God of War, oh, hey, a puzzle thing, we'll just get through it. Or like Zelda, everything's a puzzle, you just accept it. But when the game is about puzzles, I want the story to be integrated. And I played Puzzle Agent back in the day, which is basically Professor Layton. But nearly every puzzle was part of the plot somehow. Puzzle Agent had to do a thing, and then this was the puzzle to complete the thing. Whereas Puzzle Agent 2 felt like a disappointment to me because it was what I kept hearing Professor Layton was, where I'm going to go to this place, and time for a puzzle. The puzzle didn't even have anything to do with what he was trying to do there. It was just new location and time for puzzle. Yeah, the first game integrated them much better than the second one did.
That kind of reminds me of a game called Exit for the PSP. It was a puzzle game also, but the entire premise was you're a guy and you're supposed to help other people escape whatever crisis they're in. Because early on it's a burning building and then a ship is sinking or something like that. Those kinds of situations. You're supposed to guide people out because your character has the most abilities. And everyone else can follow you, but sometimes they're too weak to push a box or they're too big to fit in a vent or something like that. But the puzzles follow the story because of course your guy is the one who helps all these people because that's the point of the puzzles.
See, I would kind of like to see a spin on that where you're one of the weaker individuals trying to help the bigger guy.
Oh, well, yeah, that's also a thing because it had the sequel, and there are people you have to save that are better than you at things, but only better at certain things. For example, there are strong men in the game, and they can help you push boxes, but they aren't very good at jumping or something. Or they can't jump wide, they have to jump tall.
How do you jump tall instead of wide?
They can jump high, but they can't jump across long gaps. But
never mind. It took me a second.
Yeah. Or you can also rescue dogs because they can fit through really small vents and they can leap really far, but they can't push boxes, they can't jump up.
Well, there's that, and who the fuck? What kind of monster traps dogs? Bunch of assholes.
No, it's not like it's not a monster traps dog. It's like everyone's just caught in like the building's on fire suddenly, or a ship is sinking, or aliens are attacking, something like that. It's just bullshit happens, and we have to escape the place.
Yeah. Cool. I don't know if it's a puzzler, but I think one of the nicer games I remember on the PSP was Loco Roco.
Oh, I loved Loco Roco. It was cute.
And Loco Roco is kind of what you like, kind of like what you were talking about, Cody, where you like have the puzzles integrated to the story, and like they're pretty simple puzzles and very vague at times. Not hard vague, but like they're not in any real detail. They're pretty damn straightforward. But it's still one of those nice games I remember that I think did it pretty well, if people would qualify it as a puzzler.
Okay.
It's definitely a game worth checking out if you like.
Here's one for you. Do you guys feel the Zelda formula has gotten stale? You know, you enter a dungeon, there's a bunch of things in the dungeon that you need an item to accomplish. You just happen to find that item in the dungeon, you beat the dungeon with the item, then you happen to use that item to kill the boss?
I haven't found that to be the case, at least in the games I've played. It's usually the case of I find the item in the dungeon, and then I may or may not use it again ever outside of that one dungeon. And that kind of gets annoying. Yeah, I mean, on that note, I also have not played any of the more recent Zelda games, so that may actually be the case that what you're talking about, and I just may not know it. In that regard, I don't really have anything to say.
All right, I also have not played any Zeldas, so I mean, okay, I played like the earlier ones, like what was the one on the Super Nintendo?
Link to the Past.
Whatever that one was. Pink hair Link.
Yeah, Link to the Past.
The best Link.
Anyway. Minish Cap, what are you talking about?
I never played Minish Cap, so I can't say it's the best until I played it. So I can see how the formula thing can make it feel stale, but I feel like the dungeons are made that way in order to teach you the items. Let's view this from like an idiot's point of view, right? Who's never played a Zelda game. Yeah, who's never played the Zelda game, isn't familiar with any of the mechanics at all. You wouldn't know what a hook shot is. You wouldn't know what a bow and arrow is. I mean, maybe you do, but not in the context of the game, right?
Yeah.
So like they make a dungeon, and then they make it so like by the time you're in the dungeon, you can like solve it or whatever with just whatever you find in that dungeon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it'll feature, like, the one item that you find inside the dungeon. And it's basically like the whole dungeon is teaching you how to use said item.
But you only wind up using that item in that dungeon, and maybe in a couple instances outside of that dungeon. I know that in Minish Cap, going back to that, there's this item at one part of the game called the, I think it's the Picori Staff. It's basically the staff that you fire a projectile and it flips items over. I only used that thing in the dungeon I found it, and then slightly after it to get into another dungeon, and then I never had to use it again, except when I was going exploring and finding all these nifty little hidden things, which weren't even that frequent.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of lame, I guess.
And then there's Ocarina of Time, even where you have the Deku seeds, I think. Yeah, the little stun nuts.
Those are the nuts, yeah.
Yeah, the Deku nuts. When do you ever really use those? And I mean, I guess for that matter, outside of the Deku tree, when do you need to use them?
You don't need to use the Deku nuts at all, actually. Like, you literally don't. They're just kind of an optional thing. Or like the Deku stick. Like, you use it to light torches, but you can also smack a motherfucker with it.
Yeah, but then you break your stick and then you have no torch lighter.
Well, you can hold like 15 of them. You can use like 10 of them if you want to.
I don't know, I'm kind of one of those people that likes all the items that I get to be relevant by the end of the game. And Legend of Zelda is a big culprit of that not being the case.
Well, I think it's also because they introduce so many items. There's 8 dungeons, which means you now have 8 items that you have to make relevant, and then also, normally, bombs are found outside of dungeons, so that's its own thing.
Yeah, bombs are used everywhere, though, so that's fine.
Yeah. But
things like the Pharaoh's Wind or the Lens of Truth in Ocarina of Time, you don't really use them that often. I would have liked it if they incorporated the Lens of Truth in Ganon's last boss fight. That would have been cool.
Yeah, the Lens of Truth was, it did a couple little niche things, a couple fun things, but it wasn't really required at any point. Yeah, because you could cheat the chest mini game with the Mask of Truth if you happen to get it. That's kind of a fun side thing. But with Zelda, they have to make all the items relevant, and even just 8. Okay, let's assume you find the bombs in a dungeon. Bombs are really useful. You still have to make 7 other items that matter, and then you have to give the player enough time to enjoy the game, and then at some point they have to pause, change their inventory, and use certain other items. And I think that's why you have basically the holy trinity of bombs, arrows, hook shots ever since the N64 days, because those are the 3 items you can fit on your quick buttons, and Nintendo didn't want you to have to pause all the time to switch through everything else.
Wait, Boomerang isn't part of that?
It is, but you only used it as a kid. I think. No, I don't recall using Boomerang as an adult. No, I think it's just the kid.
Yeah. And it's literally the last item you get, too, so you use it for Jabu Jabu's belly, and then what else?
Nothing.
Or like Link to the Past, you get the Boomerang as when you get it in like the first dungeon, before you even go into the first dungeon. It's like when you're rescuing Zelda, I think.
I know Link's Awakening has an item like that early on in the game. I think it's the magic powder, and you only use it a couple times in the beginning, and then you really never have to use it again.
Oh, dude, I love the magic powder, though. Mainly because, you use it for the shrines for certain benefits, like carrying more bombs, but then also you can sprinkle it on people. Like, that's a niche benefit that I love.
It's one of those niche things, but like that's the same concept as the Picori stuff I was talking about. You just use it occasionally. It's not really relevant to moving the game or using it by the end of the game.
Yeah, true. Boy. But I feel there's a balance between utility and fluff that they haven't quite hit right, because...
Yet.
Yeah, because...
I think one of the things is they're trying to put in too many items. I mean, it's nice to have variety, but when you're a focused game on like a single object... Well, not really a single objective per se, but when you're basically going for this end goal, you should have things that are relevant to that end goal. And then everything else kind of be somewhat disposable and not really necessary in a way. Like it shouldn't have to take up your inventory space. Like all the things you get as a kid, you should just be able to put them in a chest and then go to your adult form or something like that. Or they just disappear from your inventory until you need them when you go back to kid form.
Well, they grade them out, which I mean helps kinda.
Yeah. That still takes up inventory space. Not that we had, like Diablo, where you had to put things in your inventory and manage that, but it was still kind of annoying.
Oh, man. Diablo inventory, that's a puzzle in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Monster Hunter's the same way with that, which is,
One last thing about Zelda, though. Link Between Worlds, the newest one, you could tackle the dungeons in any order, but you also had to rent/buy your inventory items from a seller. And
I do remember that. I did play a little bit of that one.
From the rabbit guy.
Yeah, the purple rabbit guy.
And while I appreciate that, I think that the dungeons became a little samey because they couldn't assume that you had any certain items, and they didn't want you to be super frustrated and have to go all the way back to your house to buy an item you needed. So they all kind of required, like, the one special item, and then maybe something else would make it easier to accomplish. Like the sand rod or whatever. Like, you need the sand rod to get into this one dungeon, and you just use the sand rod for this whole dungeon. Whereas in the old times, you got into it using a previous item, and then you found the sand rod inside a dungeon. There was more progression, I feel. Even though the older Zeldas would be technically linear, you felt the growth and the progress, as opposed to open world, where when you finally get an open world, you realize, how hard it is to design and how boring and samey things can get when designers can't make assumptions.
Yeah, that is a thing, right? Like, you enter a dungeon and you have, like, nothing related to the dungeon, so you're going around finding the thing that you need, like the sand rod, I guess. And then, like, you're going through and you're seeing, like, I don't have the thing to pass this obstacle or whatever, right? But when you find the sand rod and then you're finally going through all these rooms, like, oh yeah, I'm making so much progress. Right?
Yeah.
So it feels kind of good, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah, it's really a weird kind of situation for that in that way for Zelda especially, where it's like in the old days, things aren't really relevant all the time, but you also have that feeling of aha when you figure something out and when you do something cool and you didn't really have to look at anything like any guides.
Yeah.
And then in these newer ones, they're kind of watering it down way too much, but it's also kind of a good thing because then it doesn't feel like you're struggling to get through the game. Mm-hmm. I know I've had that problem because I'm replaying the Link's Awakening, at least the Game Boy version. I have a weird setup going on, but basically I have Link's Awakening playing on my Game Boy player to my big ass TV downstairs. But I'm doing that, and I'm encountering a lot of areas where I'm really getting stumped, and it takes me like 2 days of walking around trying to figure things out before I finally, progress and manage.
God, it's so funny because I beat Link's Awakening back in the day. Like, that was my first Game Boy Color game. I love that game, and I hold it in high regard, and it's probably because of all the shit it put me through that I finally figured out.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm actually enjoying it because of that, but I also kind of wish that it wasn't as tedious as it is at the same time. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, but on that note, I remember when Wind Waker was coming out and they had a demo at Walmart, and there was a kid...
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Remember when they did that? Demos at Walmart?
Yeah. So the kid was playing. He was only like 2 or 3 years younger than me, and the first room, the first room in this trial dungeon is, like, there's 2 guys with sticks. And when you kill them, they drop the sticks. And there's a locked door on the other side of the room. And by this locked door, there's a lit torch and an unlit torch. And you can pick up these guys' sticks.
And how old were you at this point?
Fucking Wind Waker I was like 10 or 12, like around there.
So 2 years ago.
But like at this point I had beaten Link's Awakening, I'd beaten Link to the Past. I knew how Zelda worked. One of my friends had Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and I saw her get through most of both of those games. So like I'm looking at this and going, you pick up the guy's stick and you stick it in front of the one torch and then do the other one. Like, this is simple. But the kid would just pick up the sticks and run around and then, like, hit them against walls and break them, then leave the room, then come back in and do it all over again. Like, where's the line for people? Where are they going to enjoy it but not get frustrated?
Maybe he was having fun breaking sticks.
I would believe you if he wasn't breaking them against the door.
Oh god, I think that was one of my favorite memories about demos at Walmart. Just seeing people fuck up a lot, especially if it's a game that you bought and they're still demoing it somehow at Walmart. It's like a few months old by that point, and you're just like, "What is this kid doing?"
Yeah, like it's level 1.
Although, let's be fair, we all broke our DQ sticks on a couple of walls the first time around.
Yeah.
Or is that just me? Probably just me. Anyway.
More demos at Walmart stories. There was this kid, and then, like, his older brother, and, like, the older brother was playing, like, the Madagascar game on PS2, and, like, it looked stupid, but the little brother wanted to play. And I'm like, I'm seeing this. I have an older brother. I know how it works. I'm like, hey, watch this. Okay, just go over onto the Xbox over there and start playing anything. He'll get jealous, and you'll get to play the PS2. It's going to work like a charm. Watch. So the kid goes over to the Xbox. He picks, like, NBA 2K3 or whatever. He starts playing. Brother immediately looks over. Hey, I want to play that. Little kid looks at me. I look at him. We both give each other the nod. I'm like, yeah, you got it.
Nice.
Fuck.
Oh boy. Wait. I actually do have some more actually to add to the Zelda dungeon thing.
Here we
Right.
got Robin coming out of left field.
I've been here the whole time, you asshole.
Shh. No, you haven't.
It seems we have experienced the time loop here. I don't know, though.
Hey, weren't you the ones that told me the time doesn't work normally here?
That's the point. Anyway, so you were talking about, like, the Zelda dungeon thing, right? And how you find the thing that progresses the dungeon and whatever. That actually reminds me of, like, Wild Arms Crossfire on the PSP. It was like a tactics game spin-off of the Wild Arms series, sort of. Oh yeah, I forgot. I was the only one who played the Wild Arms stuff. Anyway.
I think so.
Oh god. Anyway, so yeah. Somewhere like early middle of the story, you encounter a boss fight in the story. There's a boss fight between 3 geo monsters, 3 or 4 or something, I don't know. Like they start on the very far side of the map, and then you have your guys. It's a tactics game, so you fight them, but like when you see the geo monsters, like they move really weird because like they seemingly teleport for no reason, like far distances, and then like they have strong buffs to their stats, and you don't know what's giving them that. It's super mysterious when you fight them the first time, but they're a boss, so like, okay, this is a tough fight. A couple of missions after you get your next class upgrades, because like you get classes based on like the story. So you get class upgrades, you fight the geo monsters again, but now your party has the ability to use the geomancer. And the geomancer abilities are actually quite similar to the geo monsters, but it's aimed at kicking geo monsters' asses. So yeah. So basically, when you have a geomancer in your party, you have the ability to see the areas on the map that you weren't able to see before, basically elemental ley lines, and that's what they were using to teleport all around the map. So you see them now, and you can see that it's those things that are buffing them as well. So if you have your geomancer, you can also teleport between ley lines, and you can also reverse the elements on the ley lines so that their massive buffs are like super huge debuffs, and they become much easier to deal with.
Ah, that sounds really cool. So they show you the geo monsters, and you're kind of like amazed or surprised at what's going on. Like, what are these guys doing? And then a little bit later, you get Geomancer, and then you begin to understand.
Yeah, so it's not that they're super strong boss monsters. It's that they've just been using an ability you weren't aware of, but now you have the ability to use them too.
I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the thing about Geomancer, it's not just that one fight, because it turns out that all the maps that you've played on all have like ley lines, and you could use them all like retroactively. Like if you go to a previous map, they also have ley lines, and if you go to all the future maps, they all have ley lines. So Geomancer will still be usable even like later on in the game. Like if you're into the Geomancer abilities, and because other than the ley line stuff, they also have like some support and some attack buffs or something. So they still remain useful.
Cool.
Yeah, since we're talking about puzzles, there's one more thing. No, it's just one more class. Like this one class basically has a hook shot, but you don't know what this ability is, right? Because like later on in the story, you get a new class, and then you just look at all the neat abilities, and all the other classes you get are like, oh, this attack does plus damage, or this attack heals, or does a debuff or something, right? You don't know this guy has a hook shot until like you use the class. But even if you use the class, you don't know what it does, technically. So there is a story map that's made just so you can use this class, and you need to use this class to get through the story map. Because because there are pillars, and you have to hook shot them to get across to the exit. And that's basically what it is. But the hook shot is so useful even outside of that map, because you can pull in enemies and then make them easily surrounded by your guys. And you can use it to traverse really long distances on certain maps. And it's like, yeah.
Which
So
is
even
Anderson takes notes.
So yeah, even outside of the story map where you need it, it's still super useful. Because if you're gonna be in tactics game, chances are there's always gonna be an enemy. So what better way to murder that enemy than to hookshot him towards your guys, have him surrounded, and beat the shit out of him.
Nice.
Adam isn't here, but I'll do it for him. Get over here!
Nice.
Oh man. I think that's the extent of like the puzzles in that game. I haven't finished it myself, but it's pretty cool at the time.
That's awesome. All right. On that note, then, this has been the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmgp. This is Cody signing off. We'll see you all next time.
I'm Blue Sky Robin. Thanks for participating. I mean, listening, I guess.
And, well, I'm Fox.
It appears we have experienced another time loop.
Oh,
But
yes,
I-
we have. What a strange phenomenon.
Hey guys, it's Cody. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of this RPGMGP. We have a special announcement for you. Our next episode will be delayed by a week, so it will be coming out on Wednesday the 26th. The reason for this is twofold. The first is to bring it closer to Halloween, and the second ties into the first because we need time to play some spooky RPG Maker horror games to make a good podcast for you guys. So I hope you're ready to get spooked and to learn a lot about game design. You better pick the right side in the Skeleton War. And as always, take care of yourselves.